Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio, of course, by Jonathan Voico.
Nub nub.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Celebrate the love. Celebrate the love.
And most importantly, of course, celebrating the love. You guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a number of predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, that's when we take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or an issue you'd like us to discuss, as long as we deem it appropriate to be discussed on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news. The tip link is actually good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're listening to the show on podcast, maybe either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you're watching this show a little bit later in the day, you can still send in a topic or a question. And if you send one in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. With that all down, let's get into it here. And we're going to start off with this. You know, one of the surprise programs or projects that James Gunn kind of announced that they were going to be doing and doing soon was a Clayface project. Only James Gunn, this early in a brand new cinematic universe, would be talking about doing a movie like Clayface. And yet, Clayface it is. And super hot writer-producer Mike Flanagan was brought in. It was going to be his story. He wrote the script for it. They brought in somebody else to touch up the script and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I still haven't believed they're really going to do it. Well, today, Deadline put out this. Rhys Harries lands the role of Clayface in DC Studios' James Watkins movie, Clayface. And if you've never heard of this kid, that's okay. Neither have I. He's been in a couple of things I've seen, but I honestly, even looking right at his face, I have no idea who he is. This is what Deadline writes. When it came to casting the lead in DC Studios' next big movie, Clayface, the studio went with a fresh face, that being Welsh actor Rhys Harries. The actor from Uma Thurman Apple TV series Suspicion, which I haven't seen, admittedly, and such movies as Umberto Polanyi's The Return, starring Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche. What's that?
Good movie.
Good movie. The Gerard Butler action title Kandahar and Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, which I love, but I still don't remember him in it, landed the role from a competitive list of British thespians, including 28 years later's Jack O'Connell, Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Tom Blythe, and White Lotus's Leo Woodall, and 1970s George McKay. Now, as far as the big names behind it, it says, producing Clayface are Gunn and Peter Safran, as well as the Batman filmmaker Matt Reeves and Lynn Harris. Chantel Nong is executive producer. The Life of Chuck filmmaker Mike Flanagan wrote the first draft of Clayface with additional drafts by Oscar-nominated The Wings of a Dove and Drive scribe Hossein Amini, who's also a very, very good writer. Now, listen, that has caused some confusion. A lot of people saying, oh, so you're not using Mike Flanagan's script anymore. Well, actually, James Gunn took to social media to clear that up. It's still very much Mike Flanagan's script. One user on Threads asked James Gunn, how much of Mike's story are you planning to keep? I only ask because I'm an unapologetic Flana fan. I've never heard that phrase, but I like it. The man is a genius. To which James Gunn said, huh? It's all Mike's story. That's why we're making this movie, because we loved it. Any changes as the shooting script is finalized are minor. I'm a Flana fan myself. So anybody who thought, and you'd be forgiven if you did, when they said they were writing a new writer and maybe you thought they were replacing the script, boy, they didn't give that person much time to write a new script because it was moving around really fast. Now we know why, because James Gunn is saying, oh no, this is still totally Mike Flanagan's story. This is why we're making this movie, because it's his. Now, as far as the kid goes, I have no idea. But I like the fact that we know that Gunn and DC had a lineup of potential people to play it, some with bigger names, and they just went with the person they thought was the best fit. Now, whether they're right or not, we'll find out whenever we get around to seeing Clayface, but it looks like they're just going like, nope, this kid's the best for this role, and they're going for it. Again, I've seen The Gentleman, I've seen Kandahar, and I cannot place him in my head. So anyway, Rob, you hear about this. They've now cast. I mean, this thing is actually tangible. This thing is happening. Still doesn't feel real to me. What do you think about the kid they brought on? What do you think about James Gunn doubling down, saying, oh, no, this is Mike Flanagan's story. Make no mistake. And what are your thoughts right now on them doing a Clayface movie at this point?
Well, you said it, tangibility again. I mean, the tangibility of hiring cast. And like James Gunn has always said, we're not going to move without a great script. Mike Flanagan, look, he's got Life of Chuck, which I loved in theaters now. He just yesterday they broke ground, or it was the day one of the Carrie miniseries. He's doing Adapting King, the Carrie miniseries. You've got a lead actor who's been cast. I mean, they're moving forward. He's always said the first phase of this DC universe is going to be gods and monsters. So Clayface is interesting. What I find really interesting too about this film is the producers on it. You do have Matt Reeves as a producer on it. Obviously coming off of the Batman and coming off of Penguin, so that's interesting that he has something to do with it. Another producer on this movie is a woman named Lynn Harris. Now, Lynn Harris used to be she was a huge executive at New Line, but she was like an executive producer on David Fincher's Seven 30 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, she's a lifer, man. And to see her come back into the Warner Brothers fold, they went out, I think they produced the Blake Lively shark movie. Was it The Shallows?
No, I don't.
Not The Shallows.
Shallows was there, but I remember the one. It's actually a good little movie.
And Lynn's husband, Maddie Lesham, went off. You know what? They produced The Fifth Wave, which was based on a science fiction novel, which
I wasn't a huge fan of that, but it was audacious.
It was, but yeah, I mean, they had gone off to try to do their own stuff, but her coming back to Warner Brothers, that's fascinating. So I'm curious about the Lynn Harris, Matt Reeves connection. But this movie, look, like you, it's perplexing that they're going to make a Clayface movie before a Batman movie, before a Wonder Woman movie. It's wild that they're doing this. But they must be doing it because the script is extraordinarily good. Now, again, it's a move that only James Gunn would make.
Can you imagine? They are making a Clayface movie before we have a Batman in this universe yet. Is that crazy?
It's crazy, dude. And I'm like, whatever that's going to be, we shall see.
I'm assuming that we saw Clayface in his involvement with Creature Commandos, so I'm assuming there's some links getting built.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
By the way, there is discussion going on. Some people saying James Gunn confirmed it's in the DCU. I've seen people say that. I've never seen James Gunn confirm that. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm just saying, is this a Clayface with Matt Reeves on as a producer? Is it a Clayface from the Matt Reeves universe?
No.
Is it the Clayface we saw in Creature Commandos?
I think it's definitely tied to that, which is interesting because then we'll have I'm sure it's going to be an interesting origin story. Look, I'm just excited because going by James Gunn's mandate, where we're not moving forward on these movies until we have a script. I bet this script, I know it's Clayface, so it's hard.
It's Mike Flanagan.
I know, and I think this is probably a banger script. They're moving forward, and I'll tell you something else. Probably not expensive. I can't imagine that a Clayface movie is going to cost $200 million. So they might, because it's more horror oriented. Hey, look, it could be like Venom, and it's going to cost a ton of money because CG and all that. But I would imagine that one of the appeals of a movie like this is it brings down the budget. So they're not going to just make $200 million movie after $200 million movie after $200 million movie. And that might be something that's appealing as well. You have a great script, which is a universe. It's in DC, the universe, because of Creature Commandos, I would imagine. But probably not expensive, which is a good move because then you're not ratcheting up the costs of these films. I mean, what do I know, though? It could end up costing
By the way, I just want to address something. One of our viewers, R. Bowie, is saying, why have a Clayface if Batman's not in it? Pretty much every Spider-Man villain didn't work. Let's see. I think we just had some kind of Penguin thing without Batman in it. I think the Venom films made a couple of $1 billion all told, put together. I'm pretty sure they said the same thing when they came out with that first Joker movie. What's the point in having Joker if there's no Batman? Oh, that movie only made $1 billion and got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards and won Joaquin Phoenix Best Actor at the Academy Awards. And like, if you want to bring up Craven or Madam Web, Those were bad movies because they were bad movies. Newsflash. You just take those movies as they are and drop Batman in them, or drop Spider-Man in them, I should say. Just take the Madam Web movie and just as it is and drop Spider-Man. The movie doesn't get any better. It doesn't. You take Spider-Man and just drop him in the Craven movie. Those were bad movies because they were bad movies. You make a good movie, then you get Joker. You make an audience-pleasing movie, then you get wild financial success with something like Venom. If you have a good story, you can make a Batman-less Penguin series and win Emmys. That's why. Anyway.
And also, we already know that in these DC movies, superheroes have been around, according to James Gunn, metahumans, whatever, for 300 years. And there's not, who's to say that Clayface is going to be the only DC character in that film? We've already seen him in Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
So who knows what we're going to get?
But here's a problem. We just talked yesterday on the show about James Gunn saying something I loved, saying, in the DCU, dead is dead. We ain't doing this fate death universe where somebody dies, no problem. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they not kill Clayface in Creature Commandos? I fully admit, maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but I thought.
No, because Batman showed up, remember? And that's when
No, Batman didn't show up with Clayface. Batman showed up in that Dr. Phosphorus episode when it's just the silhouette up on the roof.
Oh, right.
I thought they killed Clayface. So I don't know. How does that fit in then?
Maybe it's a period piece.
Maybe it's set in the 1970s. Maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of different ways they could go with this. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They are moving forward with this Clayface movie, which again is only something James Gunn would do, having Clayface before Batman. What do you think about it? We got a new actor. They're pretty much going with an unknown actor. He's been in a number of things, but he's essentially an unknown actor. How do you guys feel about all this? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is a really interesting study. It was a movie that I said was the dumbest idea ever, making a movie based on a theme park ride. How desperate is Disney? Then I saw it and I loved it. And a lot of people saw it and a lot of people loved it. And if I remember correctly, I think Johnny Depp even got nominated for Best Actor at the Academy Awards that year. And I mean, then it just all went downhill after that. I thought each film, not all of them were terrible, but I thought each film got progressively worse and worse. And Jack Sparrow went from this really fun, like in a weird sense, relatable clown prince of piracy, to this jackass who had to Jar Jar Binks accidentally fall into success whenever he did something. He was no longer this feared pirate, and I kind of hated the erosion of it. But at any rate, they're talking about doing a Pirates of the Caribbean, a new one. I think they're calling it Pirates 6. Obviously, it would be without Johnny Depp. But it may not be with an entirely new cast. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer was being interviewed recently, where he said the following. We're working on a screenplay. Hopefully, we'll get it right, and then we'll make it. We really want to make it, that's for sure. Screen Rant then asked him, a continuation or something new? Bruckheimer says it'll be a new take on it. Screen Rant, new take, new actors? Bruckheimer, well, not all new actors. We'll have some back. Okay. And Bruckheimer finishes off by saying, I'm not going to tell you which ones. You'll have to guess. Now, there are a number of characters in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise that became recurring. Not just Orlando Bloom or Keira Knightley or Barbossa. There was also a number of smaller characters that would pop up here and there in multiple films. Now, obviously, this comment has gotten some discussion going around, they're going to bring back Johnny Depp. I don't know everything, but I know this. They're not bringing back Johnny Depp. For two very important reasons. Number one, Johnny Depp has publicly stated a long time ago he has no interest in going back and playing Captain Jack again. After seeing the last Pirates of the Caribbean movie and how they wrote them, I don't blame them. Secondly, a lot of people forget that Disney, we talked about this at AMC at the time, that Disney had pretty much wanted to get out of the Johnny Depp business before the Amber Heard drama ever started. Like there were all the Variety articles and like all that stuff about how he was a nightmare to try to work with, that he wouldn't show up to promotional things. He would show up to the set high or drunk and whatever. And everybody deals with their demons, but Disney themselves had enough. And even without the whole Amber Heard drama, Disney had already kind of decided they didn't really want to be in the Johnny Depp business anymore. So for those reasons, I'd hate to throw a wet blanket on everybody. I do not think Jerry Bruckheimer is talking about Johnny Depp. I think he's probably talking about some of the B or C level characters that we saw throughout the franchise popping back up. So, but again, listen, I didn't think High Seas Pirate Adventure could work today, but it does if you do it right. And I think Pirates of the Caribbean showed that you can do it right. So you know what? If they come up, like Jerry Bruckheimer saying, we're trying to nail down a really good script, which I'm glad to hear. If they can nail down a really good script with a really good story and take it in a new direction, make it a new thing, while maintaining some nostalgia by having a couple of familiar faces maybe pop up. I mean, listen, Bruckheimer is a master at blockbuster, right? But I think he could be onto something here, and I think this could be something that actually really works. Anyway, Rob, you hear about this. How do you interpret what he's saying? Is it too late for Pirates of the Caribbean 6? Do you think this is a good idea? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty much in your camp. I love the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought it was a great surprise. It was a lot of fun. It really worked as a film. And then I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of 2, but I really liked Part 3 as well. You know, you had Sao Fang, you had Chow Yun Fat in there. There was a lot of really cool fantasy. It was like the ultimate movie Ray Harryhausen never got to make. But like you said, 4 and 5, it diminished the character of Captain Jack Sparrow. And like you said, one of the great things about that character was he was putting on an act so everybody would underestimate him.
But he was feared.
Right.
Yeah. They would talk about that movie that he was Jack Sparrow.
And then they just made him a chump.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, why do you, because I think it's, people don't understand that. It's a hard character to write well. Now, if they do Pirate 6, I mean, look, I don't know in terms of cost to diminishing box office, but was it really, are all of these movies really profitable enough? Like you look at Jurassic Park and you think these movies made money. But with the Pirates movie, I think of it as a franchise with diminishing returns. But again, I haven't gone to the Campea classroom, so I don't know. Is it a good idea to make this? I guess so. But do we need a Pirates of the Caribbean 6? You know, I'd much rather see Jerry Bruckheimer give me another original movie like another F1. Why does do we need another sequel? I mean, I get it. I get why he's doing it. But, you know, F1's one of the more exciting movies of the summer. No one's ever seen anything like that before. I'd rather see a movie I haven't seen than another Pirates 6, unless the script is great.
Yeah, if they can come up with a great script,
and story is great.
I mean, you're calling it Pirates 6, but if you're having a whole new ship, a whole new set of pirates, I think a High Seas Pirates movie can still be great. And if you want to still call it Pirates of the Caribbean to have that IP association, I'm okay with it as long as it's good.
I agree with you, because one of the things that the Pirates movies have always given, however, is pretty spectacular visuals.
Yes.
You know, it's always been an eye-popping franchise. When I saw
Bill Nighy as
Davy Jones.
Oh my God, that was world shattering.
All of that CG makeup,
the tentacles.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that was showing us things that we'd never seen before.
If we saw that today, we would still think that looks damn good. And that came out like 20 years ago.
I mean, that's why I love 3 so much, is because of all the fantasy elements, from being on the beach to the giant whirlpool. I mean, there's a lot to love in the franchise.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Jerry Bruckheimer saying, hey, they're still trying to work on it. They still really want to make Pirates 6. They're trying to nail down a script, and it would be a whole new direction. But there would be some familiar faces. What do you think he means by that? Would you be interested in a Pirates of the Caribbean 6? I think it could work. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the worst group of people out there are the Snyder cultists. They're just the worst and make movie fandom just a terrible place to be. And they've always been awful. That being said, everybody else has made the mistake many times of confusing Snyder fans with the Snyder Bros or the Snyder cultists. The Snyder cultists are not Snyder fans. I mean, they are Snyder fans, clearly, but they do not represent all Snyder fans. I'm a Zack Snyder fan. Other than the recent abominations they put out on Netflix, those movies which shall not be named, he's only ever made one film that I didn't like, and that was Sucker Punch. And even that was visually gorgeous.
And even that I bought Hot Toys figures from.
Well, I mean, they're visually
Baby doll
gorgeous.
represents.
Visually gorgeous. I know you are a Snyder fan. You appreciate the vast majority of his work.
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling people the movie the movie that ever came out in my life that I most wanted to hate, that I was most primed to hate, was his remake of Dawn of the Dead, because the original Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I was pleasantly surprised. He had me in the opening sequence with Sarah Polley, and then that opening credits sequence when a man comes around. I'm like, I'm in, bro. And then the original helicopter from WGON showed up. I'm like, okay, you got me. And ever since then, I'm like, I like this Zack Snyder dude.
Again, he made, I think, the most underrated comic book film of all time in Man of Steel. Things didn't go perfectly with the DCEU, but I liked most of it, even though a lot of the audience did, but that's all fine. But there is a difference. I need to emphasize. I think this story is really good in this way. So I think there's a difference. Snyder cultists and the Snyder Bros would like you to think they represent Snyder fans. They do not. And I think this story is a good representation of that. What happened the other day was, and this thing made its rounds, that they came out of the shadows and just made it clear. We want to try to deceptively, trickingly, we want to try to sabotage the new Superman release. Even though we've never seen it, even though we have no idea if it's great or not, we want to sabotage it anyway. This is the thing that made its rounds. Stand up and fight for Snyderverse on July 11th. Fight for our Snyderverse on the imposter Superman release day. Here's what we can do to make a difference. Number 1, post spoilers everywhere. People are less likely to see or enjoy the movie if it's already spoiled. I have found in my experience that is not true, by the way. Anyway, leave bad ratings on review sites. And people wonder why Rotten Tomatoes changed their fan reviews to having to be verified first. Anyway, leave bad reviews and bad ratings on review sites. We know for sure Gunn bots will post fake positive reviews, so we must let people know the truth. You haven't even seen the fucking movie, you asshole. Fucking testicle juggler. It's
Wait a minute. I do that on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, no judgment.
Okay.
No judgment.
Keep it going. That's all.
Like positive reviews, let people know the truth and balance the bias out with realistic scores. Again, these fucking dick zits haven't even seen the movie. Reserve tickets online, but don't complete the purchase. By selecting and reserving tickets, it gets taken out of the pool for a period of time, which means this has a chance of stopping gun bots from buying tickets. This whole thing. No, the studio's buying the tickets. How does that help the studio? Anyway, seriously, the level of stupidity here is nothing. I would expect nothing else from the Snyder cultists. Nothing else but this level of absolute, utter stupidity. Anyway, then they say, Gunn fired the first shot and killed the Snyderverse. No, the Snyderverse killed the Snyderverse. Long before James Gunn ever came around. Shall we go over the critics and box office results of Blue Beetle and Shazam 2 and Black Adam and Aquaman 2 and on and on and on and on? That it was James Gunn. No, James Gunn was secretly sneaking around 10 years ago telling people to say they didn't like the DC movies. Movies that I liked, by the way, that I liked. But, a lot of people didn't. The Snyderverse killed them. And then, I don't know if you can see at the bottom. The bottom tag is, and this represents it all. If we can't have our Superman, no one can.
Have their Superman. He's right, because that one was canceled.
If
we're
we
moving
can't
forward.
have our Superman, no one can. This is...
A child playing with his toys at home?
These are the same idiots who for years, when I tried to tell people, and they would say, release the Snyder Cut. And I would say, guys, no such thing exists. If they want to do a Snyder Cut, they're going to have to spend a lot of money
I said the
to
same thing.
make it to manifest it and actually make it a thing. There's no Snyder Cut sitting around that Warner Brothers can just release. It's going to have to be made. No, John, it exists. It's real. And even when Warner Brothers under AT&T made the mistake of bowing to the online thing about release the Snyder Cut, even when they came out and said, okay, we're going to have to drop nearly $100 million to make it, confirming, Rob, we were right the whole time, they still said, see, we were right, it exists. No, it doesn't exist. They got to spend a lot of money to make it exist. And make it exist, they didn't. By the way, I thought it was an improvement over the theatrical version. I do.
Look, I love Zack Snyder's Justice League.
But the circus they had to go through to make that happen, it's now a forgotten thing under the footprint of history.
And that's one of the greatest, since Star Trek was saved by a letter writing campaign in the 60s, the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League, is one of the greatest fan triumphs ever. Because,
Absolutely.
back then, the release of Snyder Cut, they were raising money for charity. They were supporting Zack Snyder after.
But let's be clear. They were raising money for charity simply to bring attention to their own cause.
Well,
There's no other way around
No,
that.
it's true, but they did have a lot of fan involvement, and they were supporting Zack Snyder through a particularly difficult personal time in his life. So I give them all the credit in the world, but they won. They got what they wanted. And even Zack Snyder himself said, look, it exists as a black and white thing, an unfinished thing on my laptop. He said that was the quote-unquote Snyder Cut, a black and white version on his laptop that had unfinished effects.
No score, no ADR, no effects.
I mean, they had to bring back Junkie XL to rescore it. And by the way, I just watched it. I told you I watched half of it over the weekend. It's great. I love it. It's terrific. Would I like to see 2 more of those Justice League? I would love to see 2 more 4-hour Justice League movies. But guess what? There is no universe on God's green earth where any studio would allow him to make 2 more 4-hour Justice League movies, or even 2 more 2.5-hour Justice League movies. It's never going to happen. Ever, ever, ever. They got the win. And the thing is, when you get a win, you got to know when to roll them and know when to fold them, know when to walk away. They won. They got what they wanted. What's happening now is odd.
Well, see, that's the thing. And we talked about this before. By kind of giving into it, they wasted a lot of money. And we said this would happen. With the Snyder cultists, instead of going, hey, Warner Brothers, thanks, man. Like, we really wanted this. Like, we really wanted this cut of the movie. Thank you, Warner Brothers, so much. You didn't have to do it. You spent money. That was your own money to make it happen for us. We thank you. And now let's move forward.
Putting it up on streaming with no guarantee of a return either.
And they didn't get any return from
Right.
it. So here's the thing.
I'd never seen this, by the way.
Instead of doing that, what did they do? They say, oh, they gave us what we wanted. Let's make them give us more.
Right.
And it got worse. And it got worse. And now you see these fucking anal cavity clowns coming out here and saying stuff like, if we can't have our Superman, no one can. Go and buy, like, all this bullshit, like, balance it. Anyway.
Well, I'd never seen this until you just showed it today, right now, here on the show.
Oh, yeah, this was the thing making it
I'm looking at this manifesto and I'm asking, why, if you're a fan of Superman, of the DC universe, you now have a new studio whose only, the raison d'etre of the studio is to make DC product and try and make it in the best way possible. And we're getting a Superman movie that has been really well thought through by a man who's proven himself by not just making the Suicide Squad, but making 3 great Guardians of the Galaxy movies, by making Slither, which is amazing low-budget comedy horror, and Super. Why would you possibly want a filmmaker that has been nothing but one of us, an imagination connoisseur, a geek par excellence, a man who began working for Lloyd Kaufman at Troma, who worked his way up through Hollywood, who, by the way, wrote Dawn of the Dead,
Yep.
and is now in charge of a studio? It's the ultimate nerd dream. And the guy, James Gunn, won. And all he's ever doing has been serving us. And to come out and then try and undercut that movie? I mean, that to me proves that there's no credibility with anybody who's going to do that. I mean, you look at that and you're like, what? What?
Well, then James Gunn, somebody asked him about it on social media, and James Gunn had a great response. His response was this: LOL, I think we'll survive. He said, I'm not sure the 8 people that listen to that guy, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it's a guy, are going to impact the course of events. Which I don't think James Gunn should have responded to it at all. But if you are going to respond to it, that's the response to have. Now, here's what I want to actually be the takeaway, okay? This is what I want the takeaway from this to be, is not how lowly, pathetic, and useless the Snyder cultists are, but rather, this is the takeaway. They do not represent actual Zack Snyder fans.
Right.
All right? Because the mods of that Reddit thread, they immediately cut in and said, and they took it down. They took that post down. And they said this. The mods then distanced themselves from the original post and its content. They said, our staff has never approved that post and does not endorse what it said. This is a public sub where posts do not have to be pre-approved. The mere appearance of a post in our sub does not represent any endorsement by us. Our moderators delete posts after they are made if they violate any of our policies and Reddit's policies. There was never any question that this post violated our policies, both explicitly and in spirit. They needed to be immediately removed. The post wasn't so much controversial as it was universally disapproved of. We support everyone's right to vote with their wallets by choosing not to see a movie, but we do not support any dishonesty or manipulation aimed at stopping someone else choosing to see a movie. And that's the thing I want people to focus on. That Snyder fans are, the vast majority of the Snyder fans are people who like, hey, do you like hamburgers? Yeah. Then how come I saw you eating a piece of pizza last week? Because I can like both.
No.
You're either loyal to the burger or you're nothing.
It was a cheeseburger pizza.
Zack Snyder fans are ones who can go, you know what? I loved Man of Steel and I liked what he did with that universe. But man, I'm still looking forward to seeing what this new DC universe is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of actual Snyder fans, not these fucking lowly toast chuds who are coming out and doing kind of nonsense like this. These are the real fans. And the problem is too many people outside of that fandom identify anybody who's a Snyder fan as being a Snyder cultist.
Yeah.
And I this is the message I want people to take away from this. Being a Snyder fan does not make you one of these bottom lickers at all. It just means you're a Snyder fan and you like other things too. And you can't wait to see the new Superman. And maybe the new Superman will be good. Maybe it'll be terrible. We'll judge it when we see it. But don't make the mistake of just lumping everybody who's a Zack Snyder fan in with this gaggle of idiots. Just don't do that, because that's not who they are. Snyder fans are just movie fans like everybody else. They love something that was there, but that doesn't mean they're not looking forward to stuff that's coming out in the future. And those are the real Snyder fans.
Yeah, here's the thing, John. I've suffered probably more online abuse myself, which is kind of funny. I like online abuse. I'm a masochist that way, from Snyder fans. But here's the thing. I own multiple cuts of Dawn of the Dead on disc in 4K. I have the 3D version of Man of Steel on disc and a 4K version of it. I own 3 different versions of Watchmen. I have hot toys of all the Snyder hot toys that exist. I have Sucker Punch and those 2 hot toys. I'm willing to bet, I don't consider myself a Snyder cultist, but I think I've probably spent more money and have more things in my collection from just Zack Snyder's work than most of these people.
I think 100% you do.
Now, does that make me a Snyder cultist?
No.
Or a Snyder fan? What does that make me?
No, because your fatal flaw is that you're describing all the things you love,
Oh, you're
not
Yep.
the things that you
Yeah,
hate.
tell us what you hate, man.
True. And you know what? You know what? I have mixed and matched. I've got that hot toy of Henry Cavill, gave that to you. I've mixed and matched my Zack Snyder superheroes with other people's.
Oh no.
Yeah. I've got both Marlon Brando and Russell Crowe standing together. Do I get in trouble for that? Like, have I intermarried my
Well, dude, look what they did to David Ayer. Remember David Ayer, who they were all like, oh yeah, now release the Ayer cut. And then David Ayer had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to come out and say, hey man, I'm looking forward to James Gunn's new DCU. You want to see a pack of hyenas turn on Scar real fast? They were all, yeah, David Ayer, yeah, Ayer cut. And as soon as David Ayer came out and said, remember this? He said, hey, man, I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing what James Gunn's with you. They turned on him.
Wow.
Oh, they turned on him so fast. Anyway.
The people have created nothing, by the way.
Yeah. Or like, I can just see it now. Like when Zack Snyder and James Gunn put out that picture together recently.
Oh.
Zack Snyder's not a real Zack Snyder fan. Zack Snyder doesn't truly understand Zack Snyder. Anyway, it's so crazy. Anyway, guys.
Boy, I can't wait to read the comments section on this clip.
Oh, it's gonna be juicy. All right, guys, whatever you think about this whole fucking stupid stuff, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's go on to this, shall we? You know, we talked a little while ago about the first F1 reactions that came out. And now it wasn't the reviews, it was the F1 reactions. So it was just the first reactions that they're allowed to do, social media, stuff like that. And they were very good. Like, nobody's saying best film of the year, although I think one person might have said it's the best film ever, which I know I haven't seen the movie myself. I'm a little skeptical that maybe this is the greatest movie ever, but they were very positive. Well, now the full reviews are out. And the general consensus is this. Here's the general gist. It's fantastic. The spectacle is wonderful. Plot has a lot of stereotypical sports movie plot points, which doesn't feel very original, but it's thrilling. It takes you into the cockpit. It's a wild ride, blah, blah, blah. As of right now, on Rotten Tomatoes, the score is 83% with 51 reviews in. So let's go over some of them that we have here. Blu-ray.com wrote, F1 isn't going to win on originality, but it's often gloriously adrenalized and bigger than life, delivering an underdog story with high-tech filmmaking and the simple pleasure of star power. Awards Buzz wrote, plot twists and surprises are rightfully sidelined in favor of what this film does best, delivering just the right kind of blockbuster experience that's best enjoyed in a movie theater. Screen Rant wrote, it might be a Formula One promotional movie at its core, but at least it's a damn good film. Our friend Dan Merle wrote, F1 is great visual stimulation, if not intellectual stimulation. I enjoyed it, but I mourn for the great movie it could have been had it had a little bit more effort on the script. Riotous wrote, the film excels as an amazing cinematic experience and story while also making Formula One racing look cool as hell. And then we'll end with MovieWeb writes, F1 succeeds its primary goal of bringing the thrills of elite motorsport racing to the screen. Brad Pitt kicks asphalt in a pedal-to-the-metal summer blockbuster that'll get your adrenaline pumping despite a formulaic plot. I read all of these, Rob. And you know what I'm instantly reminded of? Top Gun Maverick. Yeah. This is exactly the thing with this was exactly my response and a lot of people's response to Top Gun Maverick. That was movies are at their cores experiential events. We came out of Top Gun Maverick going, that was a hell of an experience. Yeah. That was amazing. Was the plot all that good? Hell no. Was it terrible? No, it also wasn't terrible. It was fine. The plot was fine. Who's the bad guy? Don't know. We don't even have to say who they are. It's fine. That's fine. Whatever. But as a spectacle, as a blockbuster film-going summer kind of movie experience. It was everything we wanted it to be. Perfect? No. A grand experience, though? Absolutely. And I'm reading all these reviews. I read about 30 or 40 of them earlier today. And it's all big, even the ones that didn't like it. It was the same thing. Hey, visually it's awesome, but I wish they put more effort into giving us maybe a more deep story, you know. But that's Top Gun Maverick. And if you're telling me that what I'm about to get here is a Top Gun Maverick in a Formula One race car with Brad Pitt, you got me. I'm in. If you're just going to deliver on what the trailers promised, I'm in. And it sounds like that's kind of the general gist of it. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing these reviews around where you thought they would be. Anything surprising to you? And where's your anticipation level like right now for the movie?
Well, first of all, when you think about movie genres like sports movies, I'd like to compare them and contrast them to musical biopics. There's only so much you can do with a sports movie. You know, a sports movie usually has somebody coming, an over-the-hill person coming back in and triumphing or not triumphing, or you have a newcomer that teaches an old-timer a new lesson. You know, there's something along those lines. So when people are talking about, I don't know what anyone expects from an F1 movie. But when I see a movie that's called F1, you know what I want to see, John? Formula One cars.
Yeah.
I want to see Formula One cars racing around a track. And by the way, even the tracks, it's not like the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's not like
Although the movie opens with the 24 hours of Le Mans.
It does. But it's not like they're the car acrobatic team with Snake Oiler taking on Speed Racer and driving through a volcano that opens once every 100 years. It's not like that. It's a sport. It's Formula One racing. And we saw the first 10 minutes. And I have to tell you, the first 10 minutes really was like cinematic crack cocaine. You don't even need a glass pipe. You just sit there in the theater, you open up your eyes, you open up your ears, and you just get high on the pure cinematic showmanship that Jerry Bruckheimer's bringing us the way no one can but him, with Joe Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick, putting cameras in the cockpits of F1 cars, IMAX cameras. How do they do that? I don't know. I don't care. I just want to sit there and hoover up that experience. You know, it's one giant fatty rail of cinematic coke up on that IMAX screen, big, large, loud.
That should be on the poster.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it. That first 10 minutes. I mean, Brad Pitt is even living in like a trailer on this, waiting for his turn to drive, and he's doing his laundry at a laundromat. I mean, come on, if that's not just, you know, screenwriting 101 to make this guy an underdog, and he's, you know, 60. I loved every minute, and everybody looks fabulous. Everybody in this movie the background players look fabulous. The cars are fabulous. Everybody's rich. I mean, this is like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I can't wait to see this movie. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm going to wait for the Snyder Cut.
I'm waiting for the Snyder Cut. So I'm not going to show too much detail. At a group chat, not going to show much here because I want to give away any identity.
By the way, look at this poster that's in the. Look at that. That's just Brad Pitt being a god.
I don't see the poster.
Oh, he means in the thumbnail.
It's in the thumbnail.
Oh, in the thumbnail. Oh, that's a great image.
Look at that post. That's all you need. Is that image not the coolest thing ever?
So
come on.
I was in a group chat with a couple of people. I was going to say I was the only one in the group chat who hadn't seen the movie. There were two of us who hadn't seen the movie. Two of them had. One of them was a girl. This is the ultimate. This is all the review I need. And I'm not going to give the name. But she said, you know, so what do you think? She said, wait a second, let me get the wording right. My nipples were hard the whole time. That is the greatest. Put that on the poster.
Yeah.
That's what F1 needs to put on the poster. So yeah, I mean, listen, this is exactly what I wanted to hear. These reviews are exactly like, and again, you're right. It's going to have some stereotypical sports tropes. That's fine. Do you do them well? Zombie movies are all the same, but some are done much better than others.
Cop movies
are all basically
lawyer
the same.
movies.
Yep. So, but can you make it in such a way that is better than others have done it? And if you can, great. And I like seeing that 83%. I get it. There are going to be some critics that are looking more for just the story, and I get that. And maybe for them it didn't work so well. I respect that. But this is kind of what I was expecting, and this is what I was hoping for. So I can't wait to see this.
It goes down to authorship. What was the intent? What was the first intent of making this movie? Yes, to glorify F1. That's exactly why I'm going to see
100%.
it. What is the first principle of an F1 movie? It's a movie that I want to go
Highlight
see
F1.
F2, F3, and 4 more times.
Somebody said in our live chat just before the show started today, is F1 a prequel to F4?
Yes.
Like, yes, it is.
Yes.
This
There's
is-
a car in it.
There is a car that goes very fast. All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? F1 right now is holding an 83%, which I think is exactly right around where I would expect it to be given the kind of movie it is. But everything they're saying is exactly what I've kind of been hoping for. I don't know. Where's your anticipation level like for F1? Maybe you're not all that interested. Listen, I'm not even a Formula One fan at all. I don't watch any kind of car racing, and I can't wait to watch this movie. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a number of other things we got to talk about, including the Supergirl movie coming out next year from DC. Officially just changed its title. We're going to talk about that. Also, a new Fantastic Four spot has just come out, giving us our first footage of the very first villain to appear on the cover of Fantastic Four comics, Giganto. And how does it look? Well, we have some feelings about that. Now, also, James Gunn has come out and said Marvel was killed by the quotas that Disney put on them. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at BetterHelp. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Guys, one of the things that's really frustrating to me is that there's still a lot of stigma around men's mental health, but it should not be that way. Men are expected to always stay strong, keep it together, provide, perform, and yet over 6 million men in the US experience depression each year, and many go undiagnosed. It's okay to admit that you could use some help. Real strength is being able to say, I need to talk to someone. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With over 35,000 licensed therapists, BetterHelp is the largest online therapy platform in the world, having already helped over 5 million people. And it's super convenient. You can join sessions from anywhere, whenever it works for you. You can even switch therapists anytime at no extra charge. And the results speak for themselves. BetterHelp has a 4.9 out of 5 rating on the App Store with over 1.7 million reviews. So guys, if you're feeling the weight of the world, don't carry it alone. Talk it out with BetterHelp. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can connect you with mental health professionals who understand what you're going through. Our listeners and viewers get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Campea. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, with that down, let's move on to this one, shall we? As we all know, the next DC movie coming out after Superman is Supergirl. I think it was Woman of Tomorrow. That was it was going to be called. Now, you guys will remember that Superman was originally going to be called Superman Legacy. And then later, as we got closer and they got into production, James Gunn just came out and said, I'm taking that out. And now it's just Superman. Good move, I think, on their part. But the new movie is going to be called Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Not anymore. James Gunn has just confirmed that they are dropping it, and they're just probably going to be calling the movie Supergirl. This comes from an interview in Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone says, that's no longer called Supergirl, let me try that again. That's no longer called Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, correct? James Gunn said, I think it's just called Supergirl. They asked, your Superman movie was first called Superman Legacy, and now it's just Superman. To which James Gunn said this, and I love what he's saying. Yeah, I'm always cutting. Legacy was really, we do something called a premortem. A premortem is you get together with your group that's doing the project. It's usually about a couple of months before shooting, and you go, hypothetically, if it's an epic disaster, what are the things that we're doing today that are going to cause it to be an epic disaster? Everyone here can speak freely. The things you find on other productions are the things that people are whispering. Oh God, I don't know why they cast that actor if he doesn't fit the role, or the production designer is never on time. One of the things I brought up was, it was called Superman Legacy. Even though I thought that the one we gave it that title, I just wasn't sure. First of all, I'm sick of the superhero title, other name thing. And then also it seemed to be looking back when we're looking forward, even though it does have to do with legacy in the movie itself. And everyone was like, oh yeah, no, change it. All right. 2 things he said here. Number 1, I'm loving a lot of these philosophies James Gunn has about filmmaking. Like, number 1, don't even pretend to have a start shoot date until we have locked the script.
Yeah.
Number 1. But I also love this idea of having, hey guys, before we start shooting, we're almost ready to start shooting. If this movie ends up being a disaster, what are the things that we think we're doing right now that are we going to look back on saying, well, that's why our movie was a disaster? A pre-mortem. I love that idea. I think that's great. But Rob, I've also been saying for years, I think I started saying this back in the movie blog days. I hate, you know what I like sequels to be called? Thing 2, Thing 3, and Thing 4. That's what I like. Because as you move on in the future, there's never any confusion about, wait a minute, did Superman Winter Soldier come out before or after, or Captain America Winter Soldier come out before or after Captain America Civil War, or come out before or after? And James Gunn did that with Guardians. Guardians 1, Guardians 2, although he did call one Volume 2, which is fine. I have personally always hated subtitles.
What about Die Hard with a Vengeance?
I love the movie. It should have been called Die Hard 3.
That's such a cool title.
It's a cool title, but it should have been called Die Hard 3. Anyway, that was never the most popular opinion of mine, but I really like, just call it Thing 2, Thing 3, Thing 4. But anyway, so this is kind of in line with what they were saying. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I don't dislike that title at all, but just call it Supergirl and then call the next one Supergirl 2. And I'm all for it if that's what they end up going with. I don't know. What do you take away from a bunch of the stuff here that James Gunn talked about?
Well, first of all, I love listening to him talk about they have like, a caucus where they sit down or a quorum, whatever, where they talk about like what works and what doesn't before going into the film. I think a lot of people in Hollywood are afraid to do things like that. Ego might get involved. They're worried about what people are going to say. But people that are secure in what they're doing have no problem listening to other people that they respect's ideas. Stanley Kubrick, my favorite director, it was said that he would send his assistant out each day and say, oh, Mr. Kubrick would like to know, do you have any thoughts for the day? Because he was not insecure. He knew he was going to get whatever he wanted anyway. And to have James Gunn sit down and ask his collaborators, what can we do to make this better? What are some of the problems you anticipate we might have going in? That's the same philosophy that comes out of we're not moving forward until we have a great script. He knows where all the problems are in Hollywood, and he's trying to prevent them because those are easily preventable problems, and these discussions don't cost any extra money, but they might save us a lot more money on the back end, and they're going to make our product better. So listening to him talk about this is great.
Like that.
And realizing that, it's I keep going back to one of my favorite movies of the last 25 years, which is The Social Network. Just call it Facebook.
Yeah.
Drop the. It's the same thing. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. What does that mean? Supergirl. That's what you're selling. You're not selling the Woman of Tomorrow. That sounds like an ad for a vacuum cleaner from 1968. You could be the woman of tomorrow if you use the new vacuum cleaner of today. No, Supergirl. That's what we're paying to see. Superman. There was never a Zack Snyder Superman movie. The last Superman movie there was Superman Quest for Peace back in 1987.
Quest for Peace. Somebody in the live chat asked me a question. It's a good question. Say, well, John, what about like name of movie, number, subtitle? I don't hate that idea.
Right.
Because if
like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
That's the perfect example.
Star Trek III, The Search for
The Wrath for Khan.
There you go.
Or even Star Wars, right? Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Star Wars Episode 2. Star Wars Episode 3. I actually don't mind that idea.
Right.
That's actually kind of fine because you still have the number in there. So when you look back 30, 40 years from now at these movies, you completely have no problem about the sequential order of them. So yeah, I'm all for that. I think that works great. I'd be down for that. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever, but I don't know. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, James Gunn said some pretty interesting things in there, including the whole thing about titling, but also what do you think about the base story here that they're going to change the name of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow just to Supergirl? I think that's good for marketing. I think that's just good for the brand. I just think it's a good idea. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. July's going to be a huge month, man. We got Jurassic. We got Superman. But lest we forget, we also have Fantastic Four 1. Now, Fantastic Four First Steps. I still don't like that's a dumb title. Even though that I think I know now why they put that in there,
Yeah, I
think
agree.
it's a dumb title.
Does that mean the second one's going to be called Second Steps?
Second
Third
Steps. I'm now on a plateau right now where I'm like, I am looking forward to this movie. I really am. I love the filmmaker involved. I love the casting. I think this is going to be a good movie. The marketing is already up and running, and they're predicting this movie can make anywhere from like $120 to $150 million opening weekend, which would obliterate any of the opening weekends from any of the other Fantastic Four films. Good for them. But they just put out, in what I believe to be in association with a new pizza promotion,
Little Caesars.
Little Caesars pizza promotion, they are now showing a clip from the movie, which Jonathan, do you have a graphic of the original Fantastic Four comic book?
Oh, yeah, I can grab it.
Yeah, see if you can grab that and bring it up. So for those of you guys who don't know, and I've got a giant version of this, the actual original Fantastic Four comic book had a villain on the cover called, how did you pronounce it?
Giganto.
Giganto.
Yeah.
I always say Giganto, but you were probably right. It's Giganto.
Yeah.
Which
makes
I had
more
a
sense.
9.8 of this.
There he is.
First cover, number 1.
Which
Fantastic
has
Four,
the
number 1.
cheesiest dialogue on it. Don't worry, sister. The Fantastic Four have not yet begun to fight. And stuff like that. Really cheesy dialogue on it. But that's the cover of the very first Fantastic Four. So, they decided they needed to put him in the movie.
Yes.
And this is some of the footage. And let's go back. There he is. There he is. And the car coming in. I'm going to say I like the car. All right. This is going to become Exhibit A whenever I have to have this discussion with people who say, it's always best if you make it comic book accurate. No, it's fucking not. People's Exhibit 1, Giganto. That's as comic accurate as you get, my friends. You look at that and then you look at the comic book cover. That's it. That's comic book accurate. I think this looks terrible. Now,
it's not good.
Granted, I'm watching it in a small, tiny screen. I'm seeing it out of context. I've often seen visual effects in trailers that look wonky to me because they're not made for a small screen. Once you actually blow them up, put on a big screen, all of a sudden I've gone, oh, actually, you know what? In the movie, it looks pretty good.
I don't think that scene's in the movie, though.
I think this is at the very beginning of the movie.
I think it's a different shoot. Because I think
You think they just made this for the pizza commercial?
It looks kind of like they did.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. I hope this is something they just made for the pizza commercial because this doesn't look all that good. Visually, this doesn't look good.
I just found this on Newsweek. Hang on. I don't even know if this is gonna. I'm not gonna play it. We'll just scroll through it. So there's that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause see, look, he's the pizza guy, and then he gets grabbed by this Giganto right there. See.
But I think they're just putting him in his hand.
Maybe, but I think
because remember, like Superman, and like they have commercials where it's like the what's the insurance company, Progressive.
Stuff.
They're like, oh yeah, we're here to help Superman insure this car, and then they intercut it with footage from Superman. Look, if this is just specifically made for this commercial, all is forgiven.
Yeah,
that's totally fine. Totally, I take it all back. I do. I'm more than happy to take it all back. If this is actually a clip from the movie, I'm a little bit worried now about what the visuals are going to look like. But then again, Rob, I've seen the visuals and everything else we've seen from the movie all look perfectly good. So
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of this?
Well, I think back to Multiverse of Madness, where Doctor Strange in the beginning of the movie fights that creature.
Star kind of thing.
It looked great. I mean, it was a really goofy looking monster, but the execution was terrific.
Yeah.
The giant eye.
Right.
If you're making a movie with a certain verisimilitude to it, this creature does not fit. It looks like an animated creature. And while it's cool that it's Giganto from Fantastic Four #1, I would think for a feature film, the design work would be a little different.
Yeah.
Can
I throw in
a little more robust?
Here's the thought that just hit me. Jonathan, bring it up. Okay, so maybe.
Oh, you got it?
Yep. This is real from the movie.
Yeah.
And then that is not.
Because that's probably on maybe like
I'm
Little
wondering-
Caesar's budget or something.
Yes, I'm wondering if this shot right here with the car,
Yeah,
if that's actually footage from the movie. And then when we see Giganto,
the cutaway.
that's something they just made for the pizza
I mean, he
commercial.
looks like he's out of Monsters, Inc. You know?
Yes, he does.
He looks like he's out of
He
Monsters,
knows
Inc.
Sully.
Yeah, he's like Sully's evil stepbrother, whatever. It just doesn't look.
So, okay, and so look, if that's what this is, if this is a hybrid, a cut of actual footage from the movie with something then they just put together that some college kid with Maya put together in a weekend, then that's fine. Then that's totally fine.
By the way, if it is just a pizza ad, the fact that they went back to the cover of Fantastic Four 1 is pretty
It's
witty.
pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. You know?
Yeah. Now, again, I could see them, since he's on the cover of the very first Fantastic Four, I could see this as the opening scene of the movie.
That'd be cool.
I
Sure.
could totally see this as
I do
the
too.
opening scene of Fantastic Four, the Fantastic Four jumping out into action, fighting this monster that's come up from the underworld and whatever, but I don't know.
The design work, it just looks unfinished. You know, it looks like it's from another movie. It doesn't look like it's real.
To me, it looks
Quote,
like
unquote, real.
before
It
I
looks
even knew
AI
it was,
generated.
yeah, before I even knew it was like it was a Pizza Hut commercial or a Little Caesars or whatever. I actually thought this was like DLC for Marvel Rivals. You know,
Right.
like, oh, you can play as Fantastic Four now. You know,
And maybe you can again, and maybe it's from something that I haven't seen yet. I don't know, but all I'm saying is that if that is actually footage from the movie, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, and also, you'd think if that's from the beginning of the movie, when it looks like, I agree with you, it does, then there's a reason why they haven't shown it in the trailer. You think people aren't going to look at that and go, wait, what?
Yeah. Huh?
So
Anyway.
maybe they'll do what Snyder cultists want you to do and give up those tickets.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Is this something right from the movie? Maybe it was something they just generated just for the pizza commercial, which if they did, hey, kudos. Creatively done. If it's actually something from the movie, I'm admittedly a little bit nervous. Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, we've talked a lot about the Bob Chapek era over at Disney. Now listen, when Disney first launched Disney Plus, there was clearly going to be some expectation that Marvel, one of their divisions, would create some more content so they can also populate it into Disney Plus, no doubt. Something that Bob Iger today says probably was a mistake. But after that happened, came the dark times, came the Bob Chapek era. And as we now know, as confirmed by a Marvel executive, that the mandate under Bob Chapek was clear. Create as much as you can, as fast as you can. Go. And then he created a new layer of management headed by a friend of Bob Chapek's, a banker, and put him in charge of most of the stuff that Marvel was going to do and stripped away a lot of Kevin Feige's ability and power and just gave them this massive mandate. Produce, spit it out, keep going. No, we need time to, no. Just crank it out. And now, James Gunn, who was obviously over at Marvel for a while and is friends with Kevin Feige, he's saying that's kind of what killed them. Not that Marvel's dead, it's not, but it killed all that momentum they had, man. It killed the winning streak, and it kind of put them into the place that they're at now, which is still not bad, but not nearly as good as it used to be. Anyway, this is in Variety. James Gunn said the following. That wasn't fair, the whole produce as much as you can, as fast as you can nonsense. It wasn't right, and it killed them, James Gunn said of Marvel. We don't have the mandate at DC to have certain amount of movies and TV shows every year. So we're going to put out everything that we think is of the highest quality. We're obviously going to do some good things and some not so good things. I'm glad he's self-aware of that. We're going to do some good things. We're going to do some not so good things. But hopefully on average, everything will be as high quality as possible. Nothing goes before there's a screenplay that I am personally happy with. So, a couple of interesting things we learned. Number one is that, him saying that, like, that's what stopped the streak. That's what killed their insane, unstoppable momentum, was these quotas, these production level quotas that Disney started to pass down to them and didn't give them an option to say no. And so that's what killed them. But the second thing is this, because I've wondered about this. James Gunn says earlier in the interview, Warner Brothers, our parent company, gives us zero mandates as far as how much we're supposed to produce this year, what we produce, where we put it. They've given us nothing except go make the best stuff you can. That's the only mandate they've given James Gunn. They haven't said, hey, listen, we really need we need DC up and running. We need to have 4 movies a year. We need to have two HBO Max series. James Gunn says they've given us nothing. We just tell them when we've got a movie we think we're ready to go on, they say, awesome, go. Which is actually the right way to approach it. Anyway, Rob, you read his comments. What are some of the things that are standing out to you?
Well, I mean, I think, again, it's exactly what I want to hear. It's exactly what I think that he should be doing. And the thing is, if their goal going in is, like he says right in this quote you showed, it has to be a script I personally am happy with. One of the things that Hollywood used to have is Mavericks. You had studio heads that were the Louis B. Mayers, that they were in charge. And they were the ones that were, whether it was coming from their gut, I mean, they were making decisions. And to me, it sounds like James Gunn is a mogul of the days of yore, where he's like, I'm not moving forward until it's a script that I am happy with. His job,
Yeah.
Peter Safran's in charge of the money. James Gunn's like, you know what? I know best. I wish everybody who was running IPs, and I think what happened with Marvel, he's absolutely right. And Marvel did this not just to the MCU, but to Star Wars as well. They wanted to start a streaming service, and then they were going to rely on Star Wars and Marvel to build their entire streaming service. They had other things like that Jeff Goldblum show that was actually kind of fun, but they didn't have enough. You interrupted the flow. I mean, whether Marvel was making 2 or 3 or 4 things a year, they had a plan. And then suddenly you have to I always equated it to when they would do a limited miniseries, like a 4-issue limited series about like one of the X-Men.
Right.
It could be a good show, or it could be a good series, or you would introduce a great new character like Longshot. I remember there was a 6-issue Longshot miniseries, or there was a great Punisher miniseries that was going to be 4 issues, but it went to 5. And they had a good story, but it was kind of self-contained. But yet Marvel still was forced to incorporate everything they did with the rest. And it wasn't until we got things like Werewolf by Night and we got the Guardians Christmas special. The Guardians Christmas special, it was tied into Guardians. But if you'd only ever seen one Guardians movie or 2 Guardians movies, you could watch that Christmas special and get it. You could understand what was going on. And if that was the mandate, it was like on home video when they would put out those like 15-minute Marvel shorts, or they did the one where Thor was living with his roommate.
That stuff was awesome.
It was
the Thor roommate stuff was great.
And you could, those things stood alone. You could have done that, but because they were supposed to be tied in, and that in itself, suddenly you already have a limited schedule and limited time, and you have to force those into these giant $250 million movies that you're making that lead into Avengers films. It's all supposed to work. And then it's like, oh, we have a pandemic, so now we have to rewrite our storyline because it was dealing with a weaponized bacteria or something in Falcon and Winter Soldier, or Captain America and Winter Soldier. It was Falcon and Winter Soldier. We have to change our plot because of the real world. And that was another thing they had to deal with, or changing stuff around. It was really, Gunn is absolutely right here. Absolutely right. And it's really sad to hear, because it showed that Bob Chapek, once again, Hollywood, it's the same thing that happened to Zack Snyder. They're making money with Avengers movies. Now we have to make a movie not just with Superman, but with Batman and Wonder Woman, and we're going to call it Dawn of Justice. I mean, nobody wants to take time anymore, and time is where Marvel made its money. They planned. They had their visual design team designing action sequences. And so you had 23 movies in the Infinity Saga that worked. And now suddenly we have to make 3 or 4 shows a year. That was a decision that was made on high when no one's thinking about, we have to make good shows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just put out whatever crap and people, well, no, but you continuously start putting out
you have
crap,
a brand.
people start to waver.
Any brand, if you have a Tiffany brand, which is like the MCU, if suddenly your jewelry designers are making lame jewelry for Tiffany, then people are like, I'm not going to Tiffany anymore. No more powder blue box and white ribbon for me. That's what happened to the MCU. It was suddenly like, it doesn't matter what we make. It's just MCU. It's going to make money. That's the problem with corporate thinking and storytellers. It's story as old as time. Doesn't work.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? James Gunn is saying the thing that killed Marvel's momentum is the fact that they started getting all these production quotas from Disney being passed down to them. And also he's saying that Warner Brothers gives them nothing, no kinds of mandates that they have to have X number of projects out a year, either on HBO Max or in screens and cinemas. They're probably going to make as much as they can, as long as it can be to the quality that they want it to be. And they're not going to make stuff that's subpar. But anyway, whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to bid farewell to Robert Meyer Burnett. Thanks again, man. Awesome job today.
It's fun. I feel like I'm going away. I feel high.
It was that rail of
F1 high.
It was that rail of F1 code.
It was that rail of F1 cinematic crack right there. Can't wait.
And of course, before we get to your questions, we're also going to take a second to thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Stitch Fix. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Stitch Fix. Guys, you know I love movies, but you also know I have absolutely no fashion sense, and I absolutely hate shopping for my clothes. But thankfully, I have found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. With Stitch Fix, I get a stylist who understands my style, size, and budget, and they do all the shopping for me. Because look, shopping and figuring out style can be overwhelming, especially for somebody like me. When it comes to getting dressed, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. That's why I love having a Stitch Fix stylist. They really know what works for me. I get pieces that make me look great, and it's a real confidence boost. You just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preferences. You get to order boxes when you want and how you want, no subscription required. They send you personalized pieces, and the fit is always on point. No stores, no crowds, no stress. Just personalized looks that you will love. So guys, make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Campea. That's stitchfix.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Stitch Fix for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to the important stuff. Taking your live comments and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
All right. I don't think we answered this one yesterday. Anonymous says, what are some shows that you tried watching but gave up after either a season or just a few episodes? I mean, there's probably lots.
Oh, there have been a lot. I'm just trying to pick out some. I mean, it's hard to remember them because I move on from them. Yeah, all I can say is that there's been many. I don't owe it to a show to sit through its entire first season.
Yeah.
It's a show's job to make me want to keep watching. It's not my job to keep watching. And that's why, like, that whole thing of, you got to get through the first 8 episodes. And listen, one of my favorite shows of all time, Spartacus. I have to say that to people. Like, listen, guys, I got to admit, the first 3 episodes are terrible. And after the first 3 episodes, it gets great. But listen, if you start watching it and you give up on it in the first 3 episodes, I can't blame you. It's a show's job to get you hooked, not the other way around. So there have been many, but I can't pick any off the top of my head because I forget about them. I move on from them. All right, what's next?
Got Anonymous who says, I often hear more non-nerds say things like, why are we getting another Superman movie? Or haven't we had enough of these? Is the lack of excitement for people no different than why are we getting another Fast and Furious film?
Honestly, somebody who says, why are we making another Superman film? Probably wouldn't have gone to see a Superman movie anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like, honestly, I don't hear comic book movie fans going, why are we getting another Superman movie? If you were going to go to see a Superman movie, they're going to go. And by the way, most of the people who say that are still going to go. if it looks interesting to them, right? If it looks interesting to them. So again, that sort of talk is always around all the time. Really? Why are they making another Star Wars movie? I said, when Empire Strikes Back came out, you can look them up. There are archives. There are these headlines saying, like Fox ruining a good thing by making another Star Wars movie. Like, it's whatever. It is what it is. All right, what's next?
Just Curious says, hey, John, I'm happy and was surprised you get to see Superman on July 4th, but what's even more surprising, well, he's not now, but what's even more surprising is that the cinema actually advertises the ending time, so you know the exact length of the trailers.
So, yeah, again, as I brought up on yesterday's show, that is no longer happening. Turns out, even though I called them, I talked to the manager. I said, are you sure you're showing Superman on July 4th? And they're like, yep. I'm like, cool. And I bought the tickets, and Ann and I were starting to make our travel plans to fly all the way across the country to Connecticut to go see Superman. Turns out it was a glitch on their part, and they are not showing Superman on July 4th. But that notwithstanding, one of the coolest things on my movie ticket receipt was that it showed the actual end time, which is great. I mean, it showed the start time, but it also told you the end time, which means if you know the length of the movie, you know exactly what time the movie starts. I love that. I think all movie theaters should do it. I think that's great. All right, what's next?
Ryan Tribuco with a $20 tip.
Thank you, man.
Hi, John. Hope you and Ann had a great weekend and enjoyed the San Diego Comic-Con Museum. They've got some fantastic year-round exhibits. Definitely recommend for anyone visiting San Diego to check out.
I was very disappointed in the Comic-Con Museum. Well, Ann and I were so excited. That was like, we were going to spend half the day at Balboa Park in San Diego, where there's like 20 something museums. And one of them is the Comic-Con Museum. And that was our number one priority. And we go in, and it's $30 to go in, which I thought was kind of steep.
That is.
But whatever. So we go in, and the very first thing on the main floor is this incredible Doctor Who exhibit. Incredible Doctor Who exhibit. I thought it was fantastic. I'm not a Doctor Who fan at all. I don't dislike Doctor Who. I'm just saying I'm not a Doctor Who fan. And yet, like, here's a picture of one of the things, and they had all the outfits of like all the doctors.
That's really cool.
I think there's like 15 of them, but it was an expansive exhibit, right? With like big creature models of all the villains and all the kind of stuff. And it was huge, and it was wonderful. And that was it. That was it. You then go downstairs, and basically the entire lower level is just one big Betty Boop exhibit. Listen, clearly the importance of Betty Boop to the formation of the art and all that kind of stuff is great, but I don't know a lot of people that really care about Betty Boop, and to make the entire floor and the theater and everything dedicated to us, like, so that's all that's down here is Betty Boop. All right. Then we go upstairs, and like the entire upstairs was just a luchador stuff, which luchadors are cool. And I wouldn't have minded a little section on luchadors. I think that's awesome, but it was the whole floor basically. And then we were like, that's it. That's the Comic-Con Museum. I mean, at least have a room with 20 or 30 huge blown up framed pieces of iconic moments in Hall H at Comic-Con, or have some video recordings of some great speech being given from a Comic-Con panel, or something, have actual, collectibles or something that was actually there and used at Comic-Con from 1982 and
Sure.
one for like, it was like three things. And Ann and I were in there for about 25 minutes, most of which was in the great Doctor Who exhibit. If you're like, I really liked it, and I'm not a Doctor Who fan. If you're a Doctor Who fan, it might make the price of admission totally worth it for you. It was great. It really was. But outside of that Doctor Who exhibit, it was not worth $30 at all. At all was that worth $30. I will never go back to the Comic-Con Museum. unless I hear they come under new management and they actually create, like downstairs, they'll have like 5 or 6 rotating, multiple, slightly smaller exhibits, same on each floor, and there's more to see. Other than that, I cannot recommend to anybody. Again, unless you're a hardcore Doctor Who fan, go while they've got the Doctor Who exhibit. I don't know how long it's going to be there, but if they got it, you probably want to see it. But outside of that, I'll never go back. I honestly thought it was a ripoff. I really did. I thought it was very, very disappointed. Now, thankfully, a lot of the other museums in Balboa Park were fantastic. Ann and I went to the Museum of Art. We went to the Science Museum. We went to, they have the Space Museum there.
Yeah.
But the Comic-Con Museum, I got to say, was kind of a disappointment to me. I really thought they could have done so much better with it. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Brian Garcia says, happy Monday, guys. I'm sorry Superman on July 4th was too good to be true.
It was too good to be true.
If y'all care to feel any older, next month, X-Men turns 25 and Inception turns 15. Time sure flies. I feel like we're all the way down in limbo where time is completely lost.
Yeah, but see, I got to say, the X-Men movie, like a lot of times we mention this movie turns 20 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, that movie's 20. The original X-Men movie, I gotta say, feels like a long time ago. I mean, that does feel like it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because I remember like sitting in this restaurant after I'd seen the movie with a friend of mine. This was and we were both a lot younger. And so that one feels it. I that one's fine. I hear that, but every once in a while I hear somebody mention, like I remember when it was first brought up to me that Lord of the Rings, the first one turned 20 years old. I remember when that happened. I'm like, what?
Now it's almost 25.
What? It's what now? And we're talking about Fellowship. When Fellowship turned 20, I remember going, and there's been many others. You know what else was a big one? Hero's a big one. And this was maybe 2 years ago. Hey guys, this was a big one. This was a big one. Today, I remember we did this. Today is Will Wheaton's birthday.
He's 65 years old.
But Will Wheaton, I never. This was the one that impacted me the most. Little Wesley Crusher from Star Trek.
Lil Wes.
Today is now older than Patrick Stewart was when they first started shooting Star Trek The Next Generation.
Someone's warping space and time here.
Little Wesley Crusher is now older than Patrick Stewart was when they first started shooting Star Trek The Next Generation together. That one made me feel ancient. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Okay. Just absorbing all that information. Brian, T Dizzle says, who makes the premium popcorn buckets? Is it the movie studio or the movie theaters?
I do not, but it's not the movie theaters. Movie theaters aren't they're not physical manufacturers. So by the way, don't let me come across as if I'm an authority on this. I am not, okay? But I do not believe it's the movie theaters who makes them. I believe they're make them, and then certain theaters license them and they'll have it as an exclusive. Some aren't exclusive. So I believe it's probably a third-party company gets the license from the studios, manufacture them, and then license those out to individual theaters. That's the way I'm guessing that it probably works. I could be wrong, but that's why I'm guessing it. All right, what's next?
We got Brian who says, happy Monday, guys. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, did I read that one already? Yes. Sorry. And then I did T Dizzle. My bad. Okay. Brian Garcia is back, though. One more fun fact, excluding Rise of the Silver Surfer, each of the modern iterations of Fantastic Four will be 10 years apart. Next month, 2005's version will be 20, and in August, 2015's version will be 10. And here we are now in 2025 with the first steps.
Yeah, it's weird to think, because that one's a weird one to me, that the Miles Teller Fantastic Four is turning 10 years old. Because I still remember that one like it's yesterday. Like, I remember me and Harloff, like, walking into the 20th Century Studios lot, walking down the lot, going into the theater on the lot where they were showing it. I still remember us walking out, and I'll never forget this. So we're walking out, the whole group of us who saw the movie come walking out of the theater, And there's like 2 or 3 guys that are like, we're ahead of the pack. We're already out and walking back down the street. So you got a gaggle of about 60, 70, 80 people coming out of the theater and 3 or 4 that are further up ahead. And as we're walking down the road on the Fox lot, the guys who were further ahead turn around, flip the double F'ers, and yelled, "Fuck that movie!"
Jeez.
On the studio lot.
Yeah, that's
And Harloff and I just started laughing our asses off. That one felt like it was just yesterday, but that movie's turning 10 years old. All right, what's next?
all right. Anonymous says thoughts on Walk Hard, the musician biopic spoof, came out during the Meet the Spartan days, and in my opinion, unjustly bombed hard. I loved Walk Hard.
I like Walk Hard. I don't think it's one of the best spoof movies ever made, but John C. Reilly in that is just so good. And was it the girl from The Office, Pam?
Oh, was she in that too?
I think James Gunn's ex-wife, by the way. I forget the girl's name, but I think she was. I think she was in that. I'm almost positive she was in
Walk
that.
Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Yeah.
It is John C. Wright, Jenna Fisher.
It was Jenna Fisher, right, from The Office. I like that movie. Again, I don't think it's one of the best ones they've made, but I thought that one was pretty funny. You like that one too?
Oh, I love John C. Reilly, and I love Walk Hard. It's so funny.
All right, what's next?
We got Fetchy says part 1 of 2. Like many of us in our age group, almost 50 now, Christopher Reeve was the first Superman that I adored. Needless to say, I did enjoy the other iterations that came after. So when my first son was born, I named him Cal.
Nice.
Fast forward to Man of Steel. The kid was 5 then. Imagine his eyes lit up when he heard his name. So clear, realizing I named him after my greatest hero growing up. It was priceless. I will never forget that moment. You guys are awesome.
I think that is awesome. That we have a friend. Actually, you saw him. He was in the studio here the other day. Matt was in here the other day. Matt used to do For Your Consideration with me way back in the day before AMC. Anyway, so Matt was in the studio here the other day and whatever. So his wife and my wife are like grade school friends. They go all the way back. Anyway, Matt and Jay Lynn, they named their son Obi. And yes, that was after Obi-Wan Kenobi. They named their kid Obi. And suggested that if we ever have a kid, we should name him Optimus. I love that my wife was thinking that. I love that my wife would think on those levels. Probably won't name my son Optimus, but still, I love that you named your kid Cal, man. That is awesome. I love that. All right, what's next?
McDavid deserves better. 1 of 2 says whether it be the Cubs or Leafs, all droughts and the stink of wasting the most skilled player to ever play the game is forever. EDM, I guess, is that Edmonton's or I don't know, EDM's.
Edmonton's, yeah.
Been given the least difficult assignment in hockey history. Build a half decent team around McDavid and Draisaitl. Up here's part 2. After 10 years, anything short of a cup is an abject failure. For the sake of the sport, we owe them a chance to go to an organization where the bar is higher. I'd like to congratulate a deserving Panthers team on their 2nd consecutive Stanley Cup tonight.
Well, they haven't won yet. So, number 1, McDavid is not the most skilled player of all time. Okay, I think he's the best player on the planet right now. I think Connor McDavid is the best all-around hockey player on the planet right now. I do not believe he is the most skilled of all time. But listen, that's the thing. Edmonton has a team that can win. There's a reason they're in the Stanley Cup final for the 2nd year in a row. But there's nothing you can do, man. It's a team sport, and you're up against, by the time you get into the semifinals and the finals, you're playing the best teams in the league, and then you can get into a best-of-7 series and anything can happen. I mean, Carl the Mailman Malone is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He doesn't have a ring. Charles Barkley is one of the most iconic basketball players of all time. He doesn't have a ring. It happens. I mean, for years, Ohtani was the best player in baseball, but, he was on a team that wasn't going to win anything. It happens. It's a team sport. And anything, especially in a best-of-7 series, man, anything can happen. So you could ship off McDavid somewhere else. Doesn't increase his chance. He's on a good team, man. The Oilers are a good team. And so what are you going to do? Ship them off to not as good of a team just to kind of hope the dice turn up differently? It is what it is, man. And his run's not done, and this series isn't done. So just take a deep breath and let's see how things work out. All right, what's next?
Link two-parter. Question: if we add up all the 20 to 30 minutes of ads played before each movie shown each day in a theater, wouldn't it allow for an extra viewing or two? If so, using modest numbers, 150 seats sold, $15 tickets, 1,500 theaters, and a 45-day theatrical run. Wouldn't that add up to $151 million if every seat was sold out for every single one of those
Yeah,
showings?
which wouldn't happen. But
Not to mention all the snacks they could sell. If so, why would movie theaters instead lessen the movie-going experience just to steal moviegoers' time and show so many ads? What's their end game?
if you had, I had a friend of mine make this exact point once, so it's well made. If you had one extra screening a day, because so you have the old ArcLight theaters rule, 3 trailers and then the movie. So you cut 25 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes of garbage that the audience did not pay to come to see out of your pre-shows. Out of 4 screenings a day, suddenly now you got room for a 5th easy fit screening. The money movie theaters would make on just a quarter full theaters with the concession stands that those 50, 70 people buy would more than eclipse whatever small amount of money.
Yeah.
And it is small, guys. I've been at AMC. You make from those trailers. It would eclipse it. It's just good business. Anyway, I'm not going to go off on my normal rant because I do it too often. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, first time commenting here. Episodes 8 and 9 of Andor were so great. I started looking on YouTube for Andor reactions, talking about how great it was, and that's how I found your show. Oh, wow. Listen to it every day. Glad I found it. Salutations from Arizona.
Aw, thank you so much, man. Yeah, it's always nice to hear somebody who found us not from the Man of Steel review. But I mean, it's true, man. And that's the thing. It didn't stop at episode 8 and 9. The one episode of Andor season 2 I didn't love was finding those discount rebels on Yavin. Remember that earlier in the season?
It stretched out to 2 episodes.
Those
too.
Keystone Cop rebels.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I didn't like about it. Other than that, total perfection.
With that, it was like they were trying to kill time so that enough time could pass on that other planet, that wheat field.
And
You know
I
what
get
I
it.
mean?
There was a narrative thing there saying, oh, Andor himself is part of the reason that Yavin became the home base. I get it, but they could have done that one a little bit better. Mark W. saying, yeah, Temu Rebels. That's exactly it. The Temu Rebels. All right, what's next?
Jake G, maxed out my A-list reservation. That's always kind of a cool feeling to see all 4 of those slots.
Mine's maxed out right now, too.
With 28 years later, an IMAX screening of F1 3 days ahead of official release, Jurassic World, Fantastic Four, and additionally paid for the early screening for Superman on July 8th. So hyped for this summer movie season.
Yeah, so I'm opening up mine right now. I've got my...
I only have 2 booked right now.
See, I don't even have Elio booked.
Okay.
And the reason I don't have Elio booked is because I've got I've got F1 in IMAX, Superman for July the 10th. I bought my tickets for the 8th, but I've
Right.
also booked tickets for the 10th.
For the 10th, yeah.
Fantastic Four and Jurassic.
Yeah.
So I've got
I
my
didn't
4
realize-
spots booked up.
Okay, I didn't realize Jurassic was on sale.
So I'm going to have
Okay.
to pay to go see Elio, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm fine with that. All right,
Well.
what's next?
Anna Nora with a $20 tip.
Thank you, Ananora.
The Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, I love that. It's really cool historic theater, is playing 25 Alfred Hitchcock movies over the next month. I already
Nice.
love his big hits, but it has been a treasure discovering some of the lesser known forgotten gems on the big screen. No less, truly a masterpiece. That's where Schnepp screened his Superman.
Death of Superman Lives. What
yeah.
happened? And I was the moderator.
That's right. Yeah.
That will always be. I have 2 very distinct memories of the Egyptian theater. One was going to see the first ever Star Wars animated movie. And I remember being there on the carpet with George Lucas, Dave Filoni, blah, blah. It was the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah.
And it sucked. Oh, it was so bad.
Those were the dark times.
And I kind of walked out of the theater and like didn't want anybody to see me, and I didn't want to see anybody. It's like I don't want to tell people how bad I thought their movie was. But anyway, there was that. But the other great memory I have of the Egyptian theater was John Schnepp and doing a screening of his brand new film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, and getting to be the moderator of it, which was a great honor for me. And I still remember that evening. And they did it as a 2-night event. They did
Yes,
2
that's
nights.
right.
And you know who the moderator was on the other night?
No.
Kevin Smith.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's right. I was
Kevin-
there the first night
Yeah,
when you
Kevin.
moderated.
Yeah, I moderated the one, and then Kevin Smith moderated the other one. By the way, you can still go and find Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. It's a wonderful, wonderful documentary, guys. But yeah, they do really cool things like that at the Egyptian, and it's just a great. It's right up the street from the Chinese. Called the Egyptian. It's got that old Hollywood feel to it. It's great. All right, what's next?
Tender Whispers. Dave Franco has really cemented himself as a comedy juggernaut. His performance in the studio was incredible. 21 grams of shrooms.
Listen, there was a time where everybody thought that Dave Franco would never get out of the shadow
Right.
of his big brother. And it's really kind of funny because James Franco and Seth Rogen used to be connected at the hip. Like they used to be inseparable. They were best of friends.
James
blah, blah.
Franco, yeah.
Yeah. What did I say? I thought
Dave.
Did I say Dave?
I think, yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, so Dave, the older brother, James, but him and James, Seth Rogen and James used to be best of friends. And then, you know, Seth Rogen just publicly kind of said, no, like he and I aren't friends anymore because, you know, James got himself into a lot of different trouble.
Yeah.
But it's so neat seeing that he's still really good friends with the younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing him and he was great in that. And by the way, even go all the way back to like 21 Jump Street. Remember he was like one of the kids in that. He
That's
was
right.
great in that.
Yeah.
He's got that new horror movie coming out. It's not called Connected, but he's
Yeah,
got that
but-
new horror movie coming out with his wife, Alison
Right.
Brie. That looks really freaky. And comedic wise, I mean, he's gold. He's gold. And listen, I let me say this about James Franco too. All the stuff going on with him, I think, is really unfortunate. Because I think James Franco, it just adds to the shame of the way he's wasted it, is remarkably talented. He is a great comedic actor. He's a great dramatic actor. He's literally an Oscar caliber actor. He's been nominated for Oscars. It's really a shame that he kind of, you know, ruined his own career. It's really too bad because he was remarkably gifted. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous. I relate to your show because... Oh, no, Venom's Dentist, not Anonymous. I relate to your show
Dentist.
because I love sports just as much as movies. As a diehard Minnesota fan, I know the pain of cursed franchises. Most HOFs
Hall of Famers.
without a Super Bowl. And in the state of hockey, we've never made a cup final.
I don't think that's true. I think I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, guy. Google this in the live chat but I believe in the era of Dino Ciccarelli. Yes, I even know my Minnesota North Stars history. But I think in the era, I could be wrong about this, but I think in the era of Dino Ciccarelli, I think you guys did make a Stanley Cup final. I thought Dino made one Stanley Cup final. Again, I could be, I'm much more up on Toronto Maple Leafs history than I am about Minnesota North Star history. But for those of you who might be saying, John, aren't they the Minnesota Stars? Well, before that, they were something else. And then before that, they were in Minnesota, and they were called the Minnesota North Stars. And they had a much cooler jersey back then, too. The Minnesota North Stars jersey is much better than the Dallas Stars jersey. Anyway. And Matt Molina saying yes in
North
1981.
Stars, yeah. 81 and 91.
There you go. Ha I even know my Minnesota North.
They were the North Stars at the time, yeah.
Under the great Dino Ciccarelli. I love Dino Ciccarelli. He was a great player. So yes, there you go. You guys have made the Stanley Cup final. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, John, I'd highly recommend going to the mystery movie Seen Unseen on Monday the 23rd. So June 23rd is going to be a big one.
I believe I said this on the show yesterday. I believe the whispers are it's going to be 28 years later.
Wow.
Now let me bring up.
Wasn't there one last night you guys were going to do, or?
I thought, you know what? I was a little bit under the weather. You can still tell I'm a little bit under the weather. So I was going to check, but I didn't see, because I heard whispers that Elio might have been last night. I don't know if anybody in the live chat can confirm whether there was a screen unseen last night or not. I cannot remember. And if there was, what did that movie end up being? So let me see here. So 28 years later is coming out on, June 20th. So that can't be the screen unseen. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a Jurassic or something like that. Anyway, the great thing about living in Los Angeles. Oh, they're saying there was one last night. It was called 40 Acres. I don't even know what that is. The great thing about living in Los Angeles is that when there's a screen unseen, it's always at 7:00, but that's 7:00 on the East Coast and then 7:00 here on the West Coast. So at 4:00 West Coast time, that's 7 p.m. on the East Coast, there is a Reddit thread that just talks about AMC Screen Unseen, and our good friends over on the East Coast, our movie-loving brothers and sisters on the East Coast do the Lord's work, and they will jump into that Reddit's thread as soon as they confirm what their Screen Unseen movie is, and then they jump in the Reddit's thread and let the rest of us know. That's how I knew Life of Chuck was going to be the Screen Unseen. So I'm like, cool. So I find out 3 hours in advance, book my ticket, go to see it. So that's the great thing. I'm going to be able to find out a few hours before it, but if it is going to be one of the big July movies, that's going to be exciting. All right. Do me a favor, man. If you're actually somebody who works in the theaters, actually email me and tell me what it is. I won't say it on the show, but just email me and tell me what it is so I can be ready for it.
We got,
all right, what's next?
We got JD who says, hi, John and team. I'm from Colombia, and I want to teach you how to pronounce Adria Arjona. I read ahead. So the main stress in Adria is the A. And for Arjona, the main stress is the J-O. And the J is, of course, pronounced with an H, like home in Spanish. So,
Arjona.
Adria Arjona.
Arjona. I'll still mispronounce it, but I do appreciate that. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. God, even like straight up, like I'll mispronounce Bob Smith if you make me say it enough times. It's bad. And as an Italian, you think I should be pretty good at pronouncing names. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Brian O'Connor, Will Smith explained on a podcast that he passed on Django because he felt philosophically he and Tarantino didn't agree on the story. Will felt it was the greatest black love story, and Quentin felt it was the greatest vengeance story. Will was right to pass.
Well, and Quentin Tarantino shed more light on that Will Smith, I mean, we talked about this years ago, that Will Smith directly said he didn't think that Christoph Waltz's character should kill Leonardo DiCaprio's character. He thought Django should kill that character. I never think it's a good idea to tell a filmmaker how he should change his movie. But again, for whatever reason, whether you're right or wrong, if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. Just that simple. Because if you're not comfortable with it, then you're not the right fit for it. Now, I still think he made a mistake. If Quentin Tarantino asks you to be in a movie, you say yes. If Christopher Nolan asks you to be in a movie, you say, just trust him. Like, again, like, I don't know if this is making sense to me, but hey, you're Quentin Tarantino, I trust you. But again, if Will Smith was feeling like he and Quentin Tarantino weren't on the same page, then you're 100% right. It was the right decision for him to walk away. I just think that he should have, given that it was Quentin Tarantino, go, okay, man, I trust you. You know your movies. Your track record is practically flawless. But if he was uncomfortable, say it. One of my old mentors gave me this simple saying, and I believe it's completely true. It's very simple. Here it is. When in doubt, don't. Everybody who's ever worked for me has always heard me say that at certain points. Hey, listen, guys, when in doubt, don't. It's really that simple. And if he was doubting it, then it was probably the right idea to walk away. All right, what's next?
Aaron Moan says, the day the last Jurassic World trailer dropped, Muse uploaded a clip from Jurassic Park on TikTok and a photo caption, "An insect trapped in amber." Turns out it's just a repeated lyric from their new single, not related to the movie. Cheeky marketing.
Very cheeky, but why not? If you can take advantage of something,
Yeah.
do it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when there was a, what's the name of the Mike Myers series of films? Austin Powers.
Uh-huh.
There was a new Austin Powers movie coming out around the same time that I believe The Phantom Menace was coming out. And Austin Powers started their new trailer to make the audience think it was a Star Wars trailer. And then it cut to Austin Powers. And like, so, hey, listen, if you can hijack somebody else's hype, go for it. Make it work for you. All right, what's next?
We got Zach from Canada says, "Hey, John, just like you, I'm also excited for Superman. Your excitement for the film is amplifying my own. It's for sure my most anticipated movie of the summer. If it fails to deliver, I'll be terribly disappointed, but life will go on."
Oh, yeah, listen, I've been in this business long enough that I've had many times that I've had movies I've been very, very excited about, only to be disappointed when I walked out. It happens. You go to the amount of movies that we go to, it's going to happen. And Superman could be that. But because Superman is not just my most anticipated movie of the summer, it is my most anticipated movie of the year. I am so stoked for this that, and I said this on the show the other day, I am supremely set up for disappointment. I have totally set myself up for disappointment. If this movie doesn't deliver, and it may not, making a good movie is hard, man. Don't let anybody who says, "Oh, this making a Superman movie should be easy." Oh, you just tell me you're a fucking moron without actually saying you're a fucking moron. There you go. So, I mean, who knows? It may not turn out good, but I have set myself up for so much disappointment if it doesn't deliver. But you are right. Eventually we'll just complain and whine about it for a little bit and then we'll move on. But here's hoping it's going to be great. I trust James Gunn, man. He has literally never let me down as a fan. James Gunn has never let me down as a fan. So I got a lot of belief in it, but we'll find out. All right, what's next?
Blake says, favorite Brad Pitt movie. I contend he's got one of the best batting averages in Hollywood as far as percent of movies that are at least pretty solid. I'll go with Legends of the Fall.
Legends of the Fall is great. Let me bring up his filmography here. Legends of the Fall is great. I love him in the, I don't talk about it a lot, but I do love Ocean's 11. I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I really like 12 Monkeys. I love Fight Club. But you know what? Yeah, this is the one I'm going to go with. Moneyball.
Oh, yeah.
I really love Moneyball. And I'm nowhere near the baseball fan that Jonathan is. But, and then of course there's Seven, and I love Bullet Train, Meet Joe Black. But Moneyball, I think, allowed Brad Pitt to play a kind of character like you don't often just see him play a straight up character. You know what I mean? Normally it's a more, it's a character with a twist on him, whether you're looking at all these kinds of things. But Moneyball, I thought, was just a great story, even if you're not a sports fan of things. So I think I might go with Moneyball.
Nice.
All right, what's next?
I almost found Inglourious Bastards too. Real talk.
Oh yeah, of course. It's my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, by the way.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite too. Real Talk says, "Hey crew, I really wish AMC had something in place, maybe in the app, to quickly notify staff of unruly guests. More times than not, there are people talking or vaping in my theater. You either sit through it or get up and tell staff and miss part of the movie. But then you'd have to get on your phone and be all bright and
I think, Jonathan, have you been to the LA Alamo Draft House?
No, not yet.
It's a good theater. Mm-hmm. It's a really good. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a button on your seat. Button. I think there is a kind of quasi panic. I think there's a button on your seat that you can press that will let staff know there's an issue.
Huh.
Listen, I believe, like, I grew up on the streets of Canada, my friends. We believe in snitches get stitches. But in a movie theater where people paid their money and maybe been planning all week to come and be here and they got one shot of sitting down and enjoying this movie, who the fuck are you to try to disrupt and interrupt other people's viewing pleasure? So yeah, I think if you're a movie theater, I think all these theaters should have little summon a staff member button to either just bring up, hey, listen, the sound is crackling, or hey, listen, it's like 40 degrees colder in here than it is out there, or listen, these guys in these front row here, they just keep pulling out their phones and it's completely distracting. Yeah, I think they totally should have something like that. I really do. All right, what's next?
Sci-fi extremists. Many people want Pattinson in the DCU, but does no one stop to think? No. Two Batman means more Batman stories. Does no one actually read comics anymore? No. LOL, Batman constantly has a ton of different stories going on, not to mention how long a sequel is taking. The tone is completely different. James Gunn's idea of what he wants is different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? The greatest thing about us having these two Batman is that we're going to be able to have two different kinds of Batman.
Yeah.
And both are going to be comic accurate because there's been so many iterations of them in the comics.
Right.
So you're going to be able to have this grounded, lives in a world where there's no such thing as the supernatural Robert Pattinson Batman, this gritty detective, whatever. And now you're going to be able to have a Batman that's, you know, that is in a world with magic and whatever, and it can be a little bit more fantastical. So we're going to get to have two different kinds. The Robert Pattinson Batman would not fit in James Gunn's DCU. Just would not fit. It'd be terrible. But having both, I think, is going to be great. All right, what's next?
CR says in a two-parter, hey, John, how would you prefer the DCU handle the interconnection between their shows and movies? Do you prefer them being as separated as possible or actively trying to interweave their stories? Take projects with big characters like Lanterns. Would you prefer them having the show and also develop movies based on big crossover stories, Sinestro War, Brightest Day, Blackest Night? Or would you prefer its characters only be protagonists in their show and be secondary characters in movies?
I've always felt that in a perfect world, you completely separate the two. I think the television universe should be the television universe, and I think the movie universe should be the movie universe, and they should not cross them over. While the Arrowverse had its weaknesses, no doubt, one of the great things about the Arrowverse was that it was its own thing. It wasn't handcuffed to what was going on in the DCEU and anything like that. Oh, but John, Ezra Miller appeared. Yeah, I know they did that, and that was cheap, pathetic fan service. But I really think that's the ideal way to go. Now, if you're going to do what James Gunn is clearly doing, which is the stuff that happens on HBO Max and the stuff that happens in the DCU are all the same, provided they're not part of the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson verse, then just make sure that nothing that happens in your TV shows is something a future movie viewer has to see in order to understand what's going to be coming up in a movie that's happening. Say they're in the same universe, that's fine, but have some virtual walls up to make sure that, hey, you don't need to watch Lanterns
it's
to go see Supergirl. If you want, you can say they happen in the same universe, but just make sure whatever your story is in Lanterns is not something that somebody's going to have to then see and watch and understand in order to watch Clayface, or in order to watch the Brave and the Bold, or in order to watch Supergirl. As long as they do that, I think they'll be okay. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says Tom Rice Harris is great. He was Power Noel in The Gentleman, the smacky that the Duke's daughter was staying with.
I remember him now.
And
short scene, but he was very good in that scene.
Yeah, I had a feeling it was a short. And he was in an episode of Doctor Who last year and has been a fan cast for the Doctor for a little while.
Well, good to hear. Like, again, I don't know anything about the young man. I couldn't even remember which scene he was in. I mean, if that was him in that scene, which what's the name of the actor again from Sons of Anarchy who was in The Gentleman?
Oh, shoot.
I'm freezing on his name. But anyway, He was in the scene with him. He was the one that was smacking him around in it. So yes, Charlie Hunnam. That's his name, Charlie Hunnam.
Yeah.
So he was in that scene with Charlie Hunnam. That's right. Oh yeah, I liked him in that. But again, that's a very small sample size. But at least now I remember what you were talking about. Thanks for letting me know. All right, what's next?
Praying for Game 7 says, if the MCU ever gives us Alpha Flight, would you rather it be a big standalone movie or a character-driven Disney Plus show? Very cool characters that I think people would like if only they knew about them.
Well, let's be clear. It's never going to happen. They're never going to do an Alpha Flight movie. Not just because it's a Canadian team, but also because I don't think they'd see a lot of marketability. Now, I love Alpha Flight, but I don't think they're going to see a lot of marketability in Sasquatch or Puck or, you know, any of the rest of the characters there. Vindicator's pretty cool, but you could do some with the Vindicator, I think, but I really don't see them doing it. I think the right way to approach it, if they were, is a big spectacle blockbuster. I think that's the way you do it. I don't think you'd go like Andor like into something like that. I don't think that would work for them. But yeah, but let's be very clear. They're never going to do that, ever. All right, what's next?
Raging Cajun says, hey, John, I'm thinking about getting Regal Unlimited for this summer, but was wondering if my tickets purchased through Unlimited actually go to the film since I would be paying a monthly sub. Yes, they do.
Yeah, I've explained this before, but I'll explain again. So here's the basic way that things like A-List and Regal Unlimited work is this. So, at least at the time, when you reserve a ticket for a movie with Regal Unlimited, Regal counts that as a movie ticket purchase at a price of whatever the national average ticket is that day. So if the national average ticket is $13, whatever. So Regal will count that as a $13 movie ticket purchase. Now, having sold a $13 ticket, Regal now has to distribute 2/3 of that $13 back to the studios. So every time you use Regal Unlimited, or every time I use AMC A-List, AMC has to cut a check. When I use A-List to go see Thunderbolts, AMC's got to cut a check to Disney.
Yeah.
Right? So now you may think, well, wait a minute, they're only charging me $20 for this membership. If I go to see 5 movies, the movie theater's really in debt. How do they afford this? Well, the way the movie theaters afford it is because their belief is by getting you into the theater, you're going to spend money at the concession stand. You're going to buy popcorn. You're going to buy their overpriced popcorn. You're going to buy their overpriced soda. You're going to buy their overpriced Reese's Pieces or chocolate covered almonds or terrible nachos or whatever. And it works for them because they make money at the concession stand more than they do on the ticket sale price. So the studios win because you're using it to buy tickets, and that means the movie theaters have got to send the studios money. And the studio also wins because theoretically you're buying popcorn and soda, which makes up for any of their losses. And then you win because you get to see X number of movies a month for a certain set price. That is why I've said for a long time that like AMC A-List is the greatest thing to ever happen to movie fans. I really believe that. I give AMC a lot of shit, deservedly so. But they also did the best thing ever. They weren't the ones that created it, but A-List is the perfect movie membership. It's absolutely excellent. And Regal Unlimited is a very, very good one as well. All right, guys. We've run out of time, so that will do it. We almost got through all of them anyway, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost got through all of them. If we missed any of them, we'll just pick up on it tomorrow. That'll do it, guys, for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And by the way, guys, make sure you come back and join us again tomorrow. Click the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below. All that feeds the YouTube algorithm gods and helps us out a great deal. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Big thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett, and of course, our producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys tomorrow.
Can't wait to see you guys again tomorrow. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.